Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cliff with a quick introduction for supply chain operations. That's MBA6875. It's a course where we're going to cover some topics that you've probably heard of and are familiar with, and hopefully we'll cover some material that's new to you. So first thing, just a quick introduction to who I am. You probably saw one of the videos where I explained a little bit about me, but maybe a little bit more detail. So I go by Dr. Cliff. I have a brother who has a PhD in computer science. We call him Dr. Wellborn. My father, we call him Mr. Wellborn. So pretty much all that's left for me is Dr. Cliff. So I'll answer to that. I am from Texas and very proud of it. If you stop by my office, which is BASN 101, otherwise known as the Shrine to Texas, you'll have no doubt where I'm from based on the decorations. I actually have my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in engineering, so that kind of gives me a little bit different background than many of the faculty here in the Jones College of Business. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It'll definitely allows me to have a different perspective on a lot of the material that we cover. I spent my career, began my career in engineering as an engineering manager, moved more into operations and supply chain as my career progressed, advanced planning, production manager. Again, I'm from Texas. I worked for very large corporations, so throughout my career, I worked in 9 different organizations, and 3 of those 9 organizations were Fortune 500 companies. So I have pretty good experience with very large organizations. Never been an entrepreneur, never had my own business, so those of you who are interested in opening your own business and being entrepreneurs, I won't have a lot of first-hand knowledge of that. But those of you that are looking to go to work for maybe a larger company in the area, I might have some insight to that. A couple of the areas that I came from, I spent some time in aerospace, so I made parts for the space shuttle and the space station and most of the military defense aircraft. Spent time in nuclear power generation, so that was processing the uranium that goes down inside the core of a nuclear reactor. And then a lot of my career was in electromechanical, which is motors and drives. So this is my previous life. Again, I spent some time working on the space shuttle and the space station. That's the 2 pictures on your left there. Nuclear power generation, you probably recognize the cooling towers at a nuclear power plant. A turbine from a large turbine generator. So my power generation was the type of power plants that you see like a TVA. So not a generator like you would take camping or something. And usually I look for pity points when I show people the corporate jet that I used to fly on. That was the West Wind 2 that I had access to at one of the companies. I gave all that up to become a college professor. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Some of you are probably familiar with Lean Six Sigma. Those of you who are not will at least get an introduction to Lean Six Sigma in this course, because we'll talk about continuous improvement. Lean Six Sigma is just a methodology, just a way of approaching continuous improvement. Again, I spent 18 years in engineering, manufacturing, and supply chain, so I did this work for a living before I came to be a college professor. That's one of the reasons I think that I really don't like teaching from a textbook, because often the textbook just doesn't seem to mirror what really happens in the real world, and most of you probably already know that. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I'm from Texas. My mentor, maybe not necessarily a good role model, but definitely the guy who taught me an awful lot about manufacturing and operations and supply chain, was affectionately known as Machete Eddie, and you will learn more about Machete Eddie as we spend more time together. I think anybody that has known me for any length of time has heard a Machete Eddie story. I do try to stay active in consulting. I think that helps me keep fresh with what's going on in the real world. So in addition to teaching here at MTSU, I try to get outside of the ivory tower and actually help some folks that are in the community and businesses, and just to make sure I know what's going on. Again, I am from Texas. So I teach in supply chain, I teach in operations management, project management, continuous improvement. That's kind of my area of expertise. And this is my dream job. I mentioned a corporate jet that I had access to, and and some large companies that did some interesting things. But I left that life to come to this life. It was my choice, and most of the time it was the right choice to make. I enjoy helping students learn about sort of the world of operations and supply chain, and I enjoy connecting with them. I am from Texas, if I didn't mention that already. So you will find on the discussion board, the very first thread that's open to you is an introduction thread. Since you know who I am, I would like to know a little bit about who you are. So kind of your first assignment is to just jump over there to that discussion board and fill out a little bit of information so that everybody knows who we have in the class, so you sort of know each other. An online class, there's some advantages and some disadvantages, obviously. I think one of the disadvantages is that we're not in class together and we can't really hear each other's stories and perspectives. Most of you probably have some professional experience that it would be valuable for others to hear about. But one advantage to online is that sometimes folks that maybe aren't comfortable speaking in front of the group might be comfortable chatting on a web page. So we want to get these discussions going early so that everybody's comfortable putting their thoughts on these discussion boards. So this is MBAM6875 Supply Chain Operations. That's a new course, and it's kind of a hybrid, really, like my little buddy here, the little half hamster, half lion. It is a hybrid. We took two courses. There used to be an operations management, a course to itself, and then there was a supply chain management, a course to itself. And we blended the two courses together, so you're really getting the best of both worlds. There is no textbook. I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the academic textbooks. This class in particular, there was really no textbook that fit unless we tried to purchase two different textbooks, one for operations and one for supply chain. So rather than having you buy two books and spend a whole lot of money, we will take care of all of the content will come through D2L. So it might be a link to a video like this where it's me speaking, explaining something. It might be to an external video. We're going to cover three areas primarily. The first one is productivity, and probably everyone's heard that and maybe even made that use the word, said, this isn't very productive or this isn't a very efficient way to do something. We will learn a little bit more about productivity, how to measure it, how to track it, and how to improve it. And then we'll cover continuous improvement. And as I mentioned earlier, I am a strong advocate of Lean Six Sigma as a way to achieve continuous improvement. That's another one of those terms that probably most people say. We want to continuously improve or we want to get better. Well, how do you do that? And Lean Six Sigma is a very popular, very marketable technique out there that will help us to improve our business operations. And then we'll wrap it up with some information related to project management, because we all like to be involved with projects and we all want to be managers, but we don't always have the tools. This is very much a tools-based class, so you will learn about tools for productivity and tools for continuous improvement and tools for project management. I mentioned I was an engineer, am an engineer, and a lot of times I sort of look at some of the classes that we teach and the approaches that we have, and a lot of times it sort of seems like we're on one of two extremes. And I say managing in the real world, it's not like the easy button, you just do it. So it's one thing to kind of have a lot of theory and just say, well, you just motivate people and you become more productive and you continuously improve and you manage projects. Well, it's not that easy. There's more to it than just do it. But it's also not these overly complicated mathematical formulas that we're always trying to model everything into a mathematical formula. So it's something in between the two, and that's where I'll try to pitch this class is in between the two. So it's not going to be all conceptual, but it's also not going to be a whole lot of real complex formulas. We'll do some very basic math because business is numbers, but it'll be math that all of you will be able to handle. One of the great things about supply chain management, and I understand that many of you are probably not interested in going into supply chain and not interested in operations. You've already got a career path picked, and that's great that you have a career path picked. You will interface with folks from supply chain no matter what function you're in, and we will try to explain that and talk about that throughout the semester. But for those of you that are still out there trying to figure out, where you fit in, one of the great things about Middle Tennessee is that there are many opportunities in supply chain. Sometimes it is actually supply chain companies that handle logistics. Sometimes it's a company that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a supply chain company, but every company that sells a product has a supply chain behind it. So here's just a few of the local organizations that are very active with our MTSU supply chain group, and fairly routinely hire our graduates into various positions related to supply chain. OHL is a logistics company, Osborne Hesse Logistics. Store Open Solutions is a local company here, actually in Murfreesboro. Of course, everyone knows Nissan, and you might think, Nissan is a car manufacturer. They are a supply chain company, and all you have to do is talk to folks that know anything about what goes on there, and they'll tell you they're a supply chain company. Frito-Lay is a little bit farther away. They're in Fayetteville, Tennessee, but very active with us. They hire a lot of our students, both into their operations side, which is kind of their manufacturing, looking for manufacturing supervision, and also on their logistics side. They have a large logistics facility there. New Breed Logistics out of Memphis, again, another 3PL, third-party logistics provider. Parallon, which is kind of a purchasing and supply chain side in the healthcare industry. Kroger Supply Chain, so you may not think about it offhand, and probably most of you aren't necessarily interested in working at a Kroger store, at the retail store, but they have a transportation regional office for transportation in Nashville that handles all the logistics, which is all the supply chain, to get all those groceries into the Kroger stores. Assurion is a company that does some cell phone repair work. Again, supply chain, very heavy into supply chain. Ingram Publishing, Global Transportation. We have a really good relationship with the folks from Ingram. Hire a lot of our students into their transportation. Vijon is a company that makes health products, health hygiene products. Several of our students work out there. Calvary Logistics is another logistics company. Hospital Corporation of America, HCA, we've got a lot of folks that work in their supply chain group. And several others that we are sort of in the process of developing relationships. So the great thing is there are companies who are interested in you if you are interested in supply chain. And for those of you that know you're interested or just trying to find out more, I'd highly recommend you get involved with our supply chain club. We typically have guest speakers at our meetings who come from any one of those companies that we just looked at and some of the others, just talking about career opportunities. Career development, we do a lot of work in that supply chain club, helping people with resumes, helping them to connect. And we have some pretty cool field trips. Last semester we made several field trips. We went to Saks Fifth Avenue Distribution Center. We went to an Under Armour distribution center. We went to the Yoplait manufacturing facility, and sort of part of their manufacturing facility, part of their distribution side. We went to Ingram Publishing, their distribution center, and then we went to actually what really would be their manufacturing side, which was Lightning Print on Demand. So we kind of saw the manufacturing side of printing a book at the Lightning print facility, and then the distribution side. So lots of interesting field trips. Hope we can get a couple of you interested. But that's what this course is about. We're going to get started with the material as we keep moving through. Just follow D2L. I'll try to lay everything out where it's pretty easy to figure out what's happening and where you should go to next. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email.